Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start. Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm so excited for this general body meeting. It is one of my favorites. And we have two really great speakers, and I'm super excited to hear from them. But I'm gonna start with a few just announcements for GBS. So for all Gator guides who are here, the involvement form is due tonight, and that was posted on the Facebook, and you can reach out to Raquel if you have any questions about that. And then we have Gator Guides social for Gator Guides and international students this Friday, and that's at 1:30, and it's going to be like a lunch, speed dating type of thing, so we can all get to know each other more. What else? Okay, so we have a Career Connections meeting Monday, October 5th, and I'm not sure if you received an email about that yet. If not, you'll receive it really soon. And the representative from Career Connections is going to talk to us about post-grad opportunities. That's open to all members of GBS. And then the same week, we're doing MCDA workshops, and then we have a committee meeting the following week. So now I'll just, I can't really see the chat. Okay. I'll have like Jeanette, if you could just watch the chat, just because I can't really see it with me sharing my screen. But okay, so let me introduce our speakers. So we have Makayla Nicholas, and she is the historian of GBS. If you don't already know her, she's been a member of the org for about 2 years now and has been a major contributing member. She's a senior, she's studying management and a minor in entrepreneurship, and she's in the Master's in International Business program. And she studied and interned abroad through the UF in London program, summer of 2019, and then again in Maastricht University through the exchange program in spring 2020. And then we have Sydney Patterson, our guest, and she's a junior studying international studies with a focus on European studies, and she's minoring in business admin, Spanish, and German. And she studied abroad in Germany, fall 19 and summer 2020, and then also through the UF in Vietnam program. So I will now stop sharing my screen. Give me a second because we all know that I'm technically challenged. And I will pass it on to Makayla if she can do that.
So let me know, can you see my screen? Anybody? Can you see it?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
So,
first of all, I'm really excited because, study abroad is like my life at UF. It's my lifeblood. It's really what gives me a purpose at UF. And I study abroad twice. I'm a study abroad peer advisor. I'm part of the MIB program, part of the International Scholars Program. The list of international stuff doesn't end. And so I was trying to figure out how to combine really these two experiences, how to make them come together. And I think the best way is just talking about how we can have these really high expectations for studying abroad and really just be like let down by them. So my TED Talk is titled Beyond the Picture because, a lot of the reasons why we travel sometimes is just to get a really nice photo or a really nice vlog or something to say to someone in the future about how our experience was. But the reality is studying abroad isn't really going to end up being perfect or the best experience of your life. It's going to be amazing, but it might not work out the way that you planned it to. So that has a lot to do with the fact that I was studying abroad this past spring semester in Maastricht in the Netherlands. And it was a beautiful place. Like, I can't say anything bad about it. Sure, it rained a lot and it was cold. Sometimes I woke up to hail or snow, which is really weird for someone who lives in Florida so long. But I met so many amazing people. And I think if I reflect on that experience with hatred or just frustration, I would be neglecting all the beautiful things that I experienced. If I'm honest, I found out that my program was canceled on a trip to Malta, one of the most beautiful countries in the world. It's called the gem of the Mediterranean. And I found out the night that we arrived that it was canceled. And I was mad. I was about to take a shower. I'm just like, how y'all just gonna end my program in the middle of this beautiful event? And I cried a lot. Sometimes I want to cry when I think about my experience, but it's still beautiful. Maastricht never did anything to hurt me. It's not the country's fault. It's not the people's fault that I met. It's just the way that life works. Things are not going to end up the way that we want them to. But in reality, growth comes from experiencing life unplanned. I'm someone who loves to have a plan. I need a foundation to work with. It mainly comes out of my desire and my hatred of fear. Like, I'm worried that someday someone's gonna find me out and that I'm a liar, that I'm an imposter, that I don't know everything that I say that I know. And I'm afraid of that. I think a lot of successful people are afraid of that. But in reality, if you're not putting yourself in situations where you'll be challenged or pushed to do things that you never expected, or become someone that you never really knew you would become, you're not growing. Growth is our lifeblood. We are humans who are going to experience so many different things in our life. Right now we're in a global pandemic. I honestly, before I even went abroad, I thought I was going to give this TED Talk and it was going to go completely different. I was going to stand in front of everybody with a beautiful smile on my face, dropping a fit, and I'm sitting in front of my computer trying to find the best lighting. Life is unplanned. You can have certain aspects that are like, okay, I'm going to go to this university, do this degree. But I'm sure a lot of us who've studied abroad and even just who've lived can say that a lot of things don't end up the way that you want them to. And my desire to go to London in the Netherlands really came out of, I thought I was going to be a florist, honestly. I was like, oh, you know what? I just want to go and give bouquets to brides and do all these kind of beautiful things. And now as a senior, I'm just like, I want to work with people. That's my calling. I want to work with people in a business that's already established. I don't have to stress about putting together everything, their paychecks and nonsense. No, I just want to work with people and make them feel better about life and understanding the purpose of all these different things that we do. And another thing is that life just happens. If you can keep on trying to control it, you're going to neglect the beauty of it. And so if I wasn't ready to experience life unplanned, I would not have grown. The person that you see on the left hand of your screen was the day that we left for London. And the person that you see on the right is the last day in London. And I might look the same, honestly, but my heart, two different places. I came into London thinking that life would be beautiful, that it would be exactly what I saw in the vlogs, in those Instagram photos, and what I wanted it to be. But London was completely different. London was different because she taught me, you're going to experience things, you're going to experience people that you never wanted to be around. But how are you going to adapt to those situations? How are you going to deal with dirty roommates who end up not washing your dishes for the entire week so that they're embarrassing you in front of a housing crew? What are you going to do? You're going to get over it. What happens if someone vomits on the carpet and you've never dealt with a drunk person in your life? You got to move on. You just got to deal with it. And now, a year later, I'm still reflecting on this experience with love and gratitude because, oh my gosh, I went to London. Billions of people won't ever say that, but I did. And I went abroad twice. And so the reality of studying abroad is that the best moments aren't always picturesque. You can't just slap an Instagram photo on some of these photos and make them Instagram worthy. I'm not going to get 100 likes on my photos that are in this presentation. They're not. It's honesty, but I'm not living for an Instagram caption or to get 100 likes. I'm living to learn more about who I want to be and being authentic in my presentation of myself. And I'm going to embarrass myself real quick with some of the photos I will show, but I want to show you the reality of studying abroad. Even though I studied abroad in London and Maastricht, I'm going to talk about my time in Paris. So if I'm real with you, I hated my time in Paris. It was like the worst trip I took last summer, and that had to do with the fact that I had a cold. So I was traveling around Denmark, and it was kind of cold by the time we ended up leaving. And Paris just so happened to have an unprecedented heat wave. So if you can imagine, I got a cold. I didn't just get a regular cold, I got a fever. So I was overheating and in 100-degree weather with a country that doesn't like air conditioning on their metros. And to make it worse, our Airbnb to be the worst that I've ever experienced in my life. It was a three-flight walk up. The door was really finicky. The toilet had a pulley, so it barely flushed. There was no toilet seat. There was no toilet paper. The shower had mold. The shower curtain didn't even reach the ground. There was no bathroom mat to dry for feet. And there were no towels for 3 girls to bathe their skin. But to top it all off, in 100-degree weather, our Airbnb didn't have air conditioning, which is pretty popular in Western Europe. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna laugh about it. You're gonna cry about it, but you're not gonna stay in your Airbnb all day long, I would hope, right? So the story of these photos, I gave you the context of why my face looks so irritated, but we were kind of lost in the Louvre, and I'm not really a museum person. So by the time this photo was taken, I was irritated. And I just so happened to make eye contact with some of the other parts of the Louvre. Being 4 feet 9 inches, you make eye contact with some things that you would rather not see. And this statue, unfortunately, is displeased with my lack of appreciation for some of his bits. This middle photo is our first dinner in Paris, and I had found this really cool bistro a few minutes away from the Louvre, and I was so in love with our meal and also very high of the cough medicine that I had gotten from the pharmacy down the street from our Airbnb. I was basically drunk. So I'm coddling pieces of our baguette like a newborn kitten because I'm like, this duck confit is so good. I've never had a meal this good in my life. And I stand by that. That is the best meal I've ever had. But I'm like, the video of this photo is so much funnier than the picture because my legs are folded up on the chair and I have my fanny pack. And I thought that if I put these pieces of baguette in my fanny pack, I could eat them for the next morning, forgetting that bread gets stale when it's exposed to air. So crackhead energy at its peak and its finest. And this last photo is me and my best friend who I met on our study abroad semester last summer in London. And we were trying to take baddie photos in front of the Eiffel Tower, but no one told me that people would be trying to sell you like alcohol, little trinkets, and little toys. And we're just trying to navigate around these people. And it's like hundreds of people all trying to enjoy the same sunset under the Eiffel Tower, and it's just not hitting. I'm like trying to lift my arm to give like, a nice sexy pose. It don't work for me, boo. And so my arm is sweaty. So I'm like, that's the reason why we're laughing. I sound like an 80-year-old man, more like a 15-year-old boy, but I'm gonna hype myself up a little bit. And we're just cackling away at how dumb we look. But I love it. These photos, I cherish them and I laugh every time I look at them. But the reality is, perfection is not a synonym for studying abroad, and it never will be. It's not a synonym of life in general. If you keep on focusing on this big rock in front of you, on the challenge, on the difficulty, on the things that you don't like about being human or being abroad or wherever you are, you're gonna take your eyes off of the Stonehenge in front of you. You're gonna neglect the beauty of life, the things that you get to learn, the people that you get to see, the things that you get to try, and just the fact that we are so privileged enough to say that we can travel the world. So I hope that you learn how to appreciate life at its finest, at its worst, and at its ugliest, because life is beautiful no matter what happens. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you so much, Makayla. Sydney, if you can start sharing your screen whenever.
Okay. I'm gonna figure out how to do this. Okay.
No worries. Take your time. Does anyone have any questions for Makayla before while Sydney's figuring out her technology? Okay, well, we can also, if anyone, we can go back to questions at the end, but Sydney, you can go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
Okay. So, hi, everybody. I'm Sydney. As you already introduced me, which I wasn't expecting, but yeah, I'm a junior here. I'm not in the business school. I actually just chose my major so I could study abroad a bunch of times. But I am a three-peat study abroad, I kind of just made that up. But I came into UF as a freshman and I thought, you know, I already had some international experience under my belt. I was actually a foreign exchange student in high school. And so I was like, as soon as I got to Gainesville, I saw Gainesville and I'm like, how can I get out of Gainesville? So I decided to study abroad. Wait, why isn't it working? Sorry, technical difficulties. There we go. So I studied abroad first in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, or Saigon, Vietnam, then Bonn, Germany the next semester for fall, and then in spring in Osnabrück, Germany, which was actually COVID spring. So it was this past spring. And my journey kind of started when I got to Vietnam. So I originally planned to go to Vietnam, and if you might not know, it's also an internship program. So the majority of Vietnam is the internship, and the rest is kind of just like a fake class. But so I went into Vietnam and I was thinking, where am I going to go? And in my head, I kind of made a bunch of pins on a map. Where can I travel on the weekends? I want to go to, you know, the Great Wall of China. I want to go to Thailand. I want to go to Japan. Number one, I didn't realize how expensive that is, but I kind of made this map. And then I began my first day of work. So I worked at a law firm called PLF Law Firm. Well, I interned there. I did not get paid. So I worked at a law firm called PLF Law Firm. And it was basically an international law firm that specialized in mergers and acquisitions, as well as when a company would like to bring a new company to Vietnam that was 100% foreign owned. Yada, yada, yada. Anyways, so I get there and it's my first day, and the program we're with, they dropped us off at work on the first day, but they didn't know what time I had to be at work. So I got there and I was late. And the HR lady comes up to me, she's like, "You're late." And she grabbed me and dragged me in a room, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to be late. And in this room is a fellow coworker. His name was Vu. And he was not an intern, he was actually a paralegal, but it was also his first day. So we go through, they teach us about the company, what to do, what not to do. And then finally it's time for lunch, which I'm so excited about because I was so hungry. And my fellow coworkers invited me to go to lunch with them. And we start walking, and we're walking down, I'm like, oh yay, restaurant, so exciting. And we get there and it's exactly what you're seeing in this picture here. It's a bunch of tiny red stools that when you're sitting down, your knees are literally at your chest, and a small, tiny plastic table. And then there's a man with a street cart, and he's making food. I'm thinking, whoa, so genuine, like a nice Vietnamese experience. And so I sit down, and my coworker asked me what I want. And I'm thinking, well, whatever there is, I guess, you know? So I said, whatever you have. And I get my bowl, it's soup. It's 100 degrees outside, so I'm thinking, why are they giving me soup? It's literally so hot right now. And I get my bowl of soup. Good thing I practiced with my chopsticks before I left. I was literally practicing. I would eat popcorn with chopsticks, so I was good with my chopsticks. And I sit down and I start eating. I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. And then I see this meat, and it's this dark red brown color. And I ate it, and I was like, this is chewy. Okay. And then my other coworker comes up. He was a little bit late. He goes, "You eat chicken heart?" And I'm thinking, I don't eat chicken heart. I guess I am. And he goes, "I don't even eat organs. That's disgusting." And that's when I knew my fellow coworkers had a sense of humor. And so that's where my relationship with my coworker Vu started. So every day we would go out to lunch, me and Vu. Sometimes it would be other people as well, but it was always Vu and I. Vu and I would go out to lunch every single day. So when you go out to lunch every single day with someone, you know, you start developing friendship. So the whole time I was there, I was talking about this dish called balut. Now, balut is basically a duck embryo, and it is like, it is I don't know if you would say a staple, but it's like the weirdest dish you can eat in Vietnam. And so I was like, Vu, I'm going to eat balut one day. And so one day he said, okay, I'll come pick you up. Let's go. I'll take you to go eat balut. So he picks me up from my apartment, and we're going on his scooter, and I'm so excited. I'm taking pictures. That's the picture I took on the left. That's Vu, and we're on his scooter. And he's like, Sydney, put your phone away. You're gonna get your phone taken. And I'm just so excited. I don't realize what's happening. So I'm just taking all these pictures. I'm so excited. And then we start, going into this weird area. And we've been on this bike for about 45 minutes. So we get there, and there's a bunch of bicycle wheels, which I'm finding super weird. Like, why are there so many bicycle wheels? And come to find out, in Ho Chi Minh City, every street has like a weird thing they sell. So like there's a shoe street, there's a sink street, there's a backpack street. Like there's literally a street for everything. So we were on the bicycle wheel street. And we go down, and I realize we're not where I live anymore. We are in Vietnam. And we go, and he parks. He's like, okay, you can get off here. And we're just like on a sidewalk. And I think, okay, that's fine. And so he points me to this table, just like the table I sat at on my first day. And he orders balut. And then I finally got what I asked for. So I take the balut, which, as you can see there, it's the duck embryo, which is basically like an egg. It's like a hard-boiled egg. And what you have to do is you hit the top with a spoon, you take it off, you're supposed to suck out the juice, and then you eat the inside with the spoon. I will never do this again in my life. It was honestly disgusting. But I was eating this duck embryo, and you could literally feel like the beak as you're chewing. You could feel the bones. It was so nasty. I'm not going to lie. But it was the experience. It was the experience. So then after I ate this duck embryo, Vu tries to have a conversation with me. And he says, it was like near the end of my time there. So we had really gotten to know each other. And he goes, Sydney, I wanted to tell you, you're one of my closest friends. And in Vietnam, they're not so accepting of single parents. And my family is like, I was raised by just my mom. So I was raised with a single mother, and I never really had any friends. So you really mean a lot to me. And I just was really taken back. And I thought to myself, wow, like I just thought he was a coworker. I never knew what I could mean to him. I always saw him as a friend. So then I realized I was so wrong with the mindset I came into Vietnam with, in the sense that I was planning to, take from the country. I was planning to just go take pictures, go travel. And I looked over this amazing friendship that I established there. And so that's something that really shaped my journey in Vietnam, was this friendship with Vu. So from then, I learned, instead of, taking pictures where I can, buying souvenirs, and looking for the thrills, I learned to meet with the locals, to, find a new friend and look deeper into the relationships I had made. I actually got invited to my boss's wedding. It was the first wedding I've ever been to, and it was a Vietnamese wedding, as you can see on the left. Yeah, that's my boss. It was honestly an amazing experience. And yes, I was the only non-Vietnamese person there, except one of my other coworkers, but he had lived there forever, so I didn't count him. But yes, it was a really amazing experience. And I took that all with me when I went into Germany. So I go into Germany with the mindset, to be more open-minded and not just think of Germany as another, pin on my map. And so I go in, and I go into UF in Bonn, and I'm the only, sorry, not UF in Bonn, it was just an exchange with Bonn. And I'm the only UF student that is going, the only one, period. So I get there, I just literally came back from Vietnam like a week and a half ago, then I move again to Germany. And I was so alone. I literally had nobody. And I remember going to the first day of school, and I was crazy. I decided I want to do 18 credit hours, and I want them all in German. So I took on a lot, I could say. So I go to my first day of school, and we're in this building. I must say the German education system is not what it's cracked up to be. They don't even have projectors. But So I'm going up the stairs. It's too many stairs. The elevator's broken. That just explains Germany a little bit, you know? So I'm going up the stairs. It's literally 3 flights of stairs. And I did that every day, 3 times a day. And so it's 8 in the morning. And I get there. I'm like one of the first people in my class. And I see this guy. I'm like, hi, I'm Sydney. Nice to meet you. He's like, hi, I'm Brian. I'm like, okay, whatever. We started class. 3 hours later, I go to my next class. And I go in there and he's there again. I'm like, hey, you were in my last class. He's like, yeah, hi. And then that class is over. And then I go into my next class and he's there again. And I'm like, okay, this is inevitable. We're going to be friends. So Brian, he's actually, if you look in this picture, I know this is a group picture, not very helpful, but if you look directly in the center, he's the guy to the left of the guy in the center. That is Brian. He's Taiwanese. And Brian and I ended up creating a really good friendship. So we were in class together every day, all day, and in German. And my German was pretty mediocre. So this guy helped me so much. I don't know why Brian knew German so well, but this man was like fluent in German. And so we would just talk every day, you know? We would chat about life, about German memes. We would rant to each other, just having good times. And then finally, towards the end of my trip, I was leaving and I was going to my other city in Germany, which is called Osnabrück, which is in the north of Germany. So it's about 4 hours away from Bonn. And we decided to have a going away party for everybody. So we go there. Brian's there, of course, and we're all hanging out. And Brian ends up teaching me how to make his grandmother's secret recipe for dumplings, which was awesome. I literally still make them to this day. There's me and my mom making Brian's dumplings. And so he taught me how to make them. I'm not going to share the recipe, but it's just like, it's actually pork dumplings with ginger inside. It's the Taiwanese style instead of the Chinese style. So we had a good time. We partied, we ate, we drank. And then it was time to say goodbye. And as I was leaving, he gives me a letter. And I opened the letter and I just started crying. And it said, Sydney, thank you for being such a good friend to me. Sydney, thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. Thank you for, you know, letting me be myself, helping me speak up, you know, go outside the box, go outside of my comfort zone. And I also have to thank him for that, you know? And so that's what brings me back to the beginning of my journey, is that study abroad, what I originally thought was going to be, you know, another pinpoint on the map, another language to learn, it ended up being composed of all the people I met, of the friendships and the relationships I made along the way. And so I've made this really cheesy metaphor that my study abroad experience was like a bowl of pho. In the sense that, I don't know if you've ever had pho, but it's kind of boring unless you put stuff in it. So it's essentially just broth and noodles. And what makes pho pho is the lime, it's the cilantro, it's the chili paste you add in, it's the chicken heart, you know? That's what the pho is. And that's what my study abroad experience was. It was all the relationships that were sprinkled along the way. So I leave you at that. Thank you.
That was so great. Thank you so much, Sydney. And I love the pictures of you at the wedding. I'm obsessed. That's so cute.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for either of our speakers? I'm going to share my screen so that everyone, if you haven't already, if you could scan the QR code and it's through Gator Ready. So if you have the app, you'll get like the points associated, and we'll also have like the attendance. So if you could just scan the code in the top right, I'll actually go to the first page because it's a little bigger. But does anyone have any questions for our speakers? If not, I'll just start with a question. It's a question for both of you. So you guys have both studied abroad more than once and in different places. So I guess my question would be like, what was it like how was that like going to two different places? Obviously, Sydney, you went back to back. So like, what was that transition like for you, and how did you do with like missing home because you were gone for so long? And then Makayla, for you, like, what were your expectations when you went to the Netherlands, and how was it different from London? If you could just kind of touch on that a little bit.
Okay, I can start. So I would say that when I went originally, I thought I was so independent. I'm like, I'm not gonna miss home, at all. And I actually was in Germany during Thanksgiving and Christmas time, which was really hard, like really, really hard. Actually, a group of my American friends and I, we made Thanksgiving for ourselves, and we took the day off of school and we said, I don't care about you, so we're taking the day off for Thanksgiving. But I actually went home for Christmas because I wanted to go home. Like, I was at the point that if I didn't go home, I don't think I would have enjoyed the rest of my time, because it was a holiday time. And I think that's why everyone, the Germans especially, like focused on their family. And so everyone was with their family, and then it kind of left us just alone, like all of our international students, and most of my other friends also went home. So I think that's how I dealt with the change, by going home like once, so yeah.
I think I have a total different experience, but it's just because I've grown up really independent. So I didn't miss my family. But there was one thing that I have to say. I did have very long conversations with my godmother, who's the family member I'm closest to the most. Like, I can literally tell you that there were some nights where I would not go outside in London because I was just on a phone in my room, like alone, talking to my godmom for hours, like, okay, so this is what I did in London. And I don't really like when this person does da 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 da, like these dirty roommates, like I'm so tired of them, and da 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 da, this and that and this and that for 2 hours. But it was because I had that connection that I felt like I was really more reflective. Like, I'm like, okay, you're right. Let me do some things alone. Like, you don't have to do everything with friends. Like, it's okay to go to Stonehenge alone. It's okay to go to Oxford alone. And I was doing that. But the comparison between the two countries, I'm gonna have to call us out because there are quite a few UF and London people who went on the same program as me. So honestly, like going abroad in a group of like 70 Americans, I didn't learn about British culture like that. I had no classes with British people, didn't get anything out of it. Like, honestly, I nag on us Americans a lot, because sometimes I would be embarrassed to go out because it was just, you could tell. And you could tell we were like the loud, boisterous group of Americans. Like, some of the girls would be drunk and like they'd be like on the tube yelling at each other, and I was just not feeling that. And so it was embarrassing. But I mean, I loved my experience. Don't get me wrong. I think about London every day of my life, but I think it has a lot to do with what I wanted, what I made it. Because the program itself doesn't really push you to adventure like the UK. It doesn't. I mean, they have one trip that you can go to Wales, but that's it. They don't tell you to go to Manchester or anything. Whereas going on exchange, like they have, like we have Gator Guides, they have the International Student Network, which is pretty much all over Western Europe. So the cool thing about them is that they hosted a trip to adventure to different cities around the Netherlands. And that is my most memorable thing that I've done that semester, because like I got to wear traditional Dutch clothing. Like they taught us, yes, it's Erasmus. It is Erasmus. So that's their like exchange thing that they do, which we should have in America, but we don't tell people to go abroad as much. But going abroad on those two different experiences really showed me how valuable it is to be alone and to see things from like alone. Like I feel like a lot of us do have experiences being the single person, like being the only person going to the Netherlands for that semester. There was no one else in the Netherlands from UF. So I was like, okay, it's time for me to pick up my 120-pound luggage and take it all over the airport alone. I don't weigh 120 pounds. My luggage weighed more than I did. But it showed me like, okay, this American hoarding lifestyle, that don't work out in Europe. Because guess what? It's stairs. It's bare stairs. The Netherlands has this type of staircase that winds. There was the first time I went to the Netherlands, like I had to climb up the stairs on my hands and knees, because I was either gonna fall off and bust my behind, or I was gonna lose it. But it's these experiences that made me love it so much more, because like, all right, I'm not used to things being easy, but you know, we go to UF and we're kind of business students. We like things a little lax. And that's what the UF in London program was for me. It was like, okay, let me get my foot in the door, but also it's not pushing me outside my comfort zone. You're not pushing me to interact with people who are of different cultures. If you wanted to only hang out with Americans, you could. You only lived with Americans. Yeah, there's some diversity, you know, a lot of us have a little bit of culture or whatever, but it's not pushing you to do more. And that I'm gonna advocate for going on exchange, but honestly, both programs are amazing, beautiful, highly recommend, 10 out of 10. I'm a study abroad peer advisor, so you know I'm about to big up studying abroad, period. But it's really what you're looking for. I had to be proactive for exchange. Things were set out for me for London, period.
Does anyone else have any questions? I actually had the same experience, Makayla. I think it's definitely like for me being in Madrid with UF in Madrid, it was like vacation. Yeah, but there's definitely pros and cons to both. I'm an IPSA, or I was an IPSA, so I have like the UF programs as well. I will also plug, but they are both great, and I do agree. I wish I was able to go on exchange like you guys. It sounds awesome. But does anyone have any final questions for our first guest speakers today?
I have a question. Where's the next destination? What's next? What's the next stamp on the passport?
Sydney, I'm gonna lead you to teach me because I'm trying to head over to Germany, boo.
So I'm actually trying to do a semester abroad in Taiwan next, and I'm learning Chinese now. So hopefully I can like actually learn Chinese, or I kind of can only say like my name and I have a cat, so that's about it. But you know, hopefully I'll get there one day. But yeah, I actually could see myself living in Asia. I've applied to most of my internships this summer that are half in Asia and half in the US. So I hope to actually live there one day. So yeah.
Does anyone have any final questions? I can't see the chat, so I don't know what's happening in the chat. But if not, oh, and you've already scanned the QR code, we can complete this meeting. I just want to thank you all again for coming out. Thank you, Makayla and Sydney, for sharing. That was really fun. And thank you so much, Sydney, for joining us. I hope we can see more of you because you definitely have a lot of the international energy that we bring to GBS. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and we will see you at our next meeting.